Adam Scott is one of the best swings in the game of golf. It's such a pretty and elegant swing, and we're going to break it down and look at a couple of unique things that you've probably never seen before in any videos of Adam. So let's look firstly, is look how much he addresses that ball off the heel of the driver. You can see this from down the line as well. Now he does this as a bit of a matchup, which we'll go throughout the swing analysis. So we can see how he's got that club off the heel. Now I want to isolate this left foot. So as he takes it away, you can't really see much of this, but look how he's taking it away, and look how he just moves to the outside border of that left foot there. You can really see how he slams down that left heel in that initial portion. You can see how that left foot's really rocking back. Now if we zoom out, you'll see how, look at that little rock as an initial sort of takeaway position, but that just helps him get a little bit more behind the ball or away from the ball, which will help center up that club when he comes in the downswing. So we'll go through it a little bit more in detail. So let's just draw some lines for a frame of reference, get them at the same start point. So we'll draw a line on his tailbone here, and then we'll draw one on the peak of his cap and then the top of his cap, and we'll also draw one on the peak of his cap here. So like we said, you'll notice this little move in that left foot there where he rocks back, and then you'll start to see how that right butt cheek starts to turn behind that line. You'll notice how Adam just comes off that headline a subtle amount because of that rock into that left heel and that takeaway. You can see how that right butt cheek's really starting to move now behind that line as he moves into takeaway. And if we look from down the line, you'll notice, look how that right butt cheek again is moving behind that line. Lovely traditional takeaway here from Adam. You'll see, I love to see this position whereby that club head is outside the hands, that club face is pretty much parallel to his spine angle here, and that shaft is slightly just outside the target line. You're very much traditional one-piece takeaway there, very a la Tiger Woods in 2000. You'll also notice he's got a subtle bend in that right arm, and notice how that right arm has stayed nicely in front of that seam line on his jumper there, his famous beige jumper that he loves. So let's bring him up to this halfway back position. Let's see what he does from here. So you'll notice just after this spot is start to really set the wrist. That trail elbow, that right elbow starts to fold nicely, but look at the peak of his cap from this takeaway position. You can see how he's starting to get a little bit of gap there between where he started and then how he comes into this mid backswing position. Again, you think about it, if Adam's moving away from the ball, then he's starting to recenter the club that was initially centered in the heel of the driver. So you'll notice here he'll start to move that right hip back a little bit more. You can see how he sets the wrist nicely there. The elbows pretty much nice and level. That right arm still in front of his seam line on his shirt. Really textbook position from Adam here. If we look from this unique over the head view, you'll see how that hip is still behind that line. You'll notice how look how still he keeps that head in terms of rotation. Look at that left ear, there's no sort of rotation there. That's remarkable flexibility through the neck to be able to do that. You'll notice it starts to turn a little bit more here. You can really see how close together his elbows are, and again how nice and in front that right arm is of his body. You'll see how he starts to set the wrist also. If I just bring it there, you can see how those wrists are starting to set. And then let's take him up a little bit further up to the top. You can see how much is behind that red line in terms of his pelvis here. And look at that athleticism as he gets up to the top. You can see that separation between his torso and his hips. Loads of rotation there. You can see as well is, look, there's not a lot of space between those arms. Lovely, lovely position. Let's bring him up to the top here. It's just textbook. Like I said, that those elbows are nicely close together. That right arm is in such a nice structured position. You'll note how flat that left wrist is. The club face, if I just bring it a couple of frames back, is slightly shut to that wrist position ever so slightly, which Adam's always done. If we draw a line here, then that club face, that is very bad drawing here. That club face is just slightly shut to those wrists, but only ever so slightly. You can see how from here, we'll go a little bit more in the dynamic motion of it, but I want to just show you how he starts to work that head away from the ball again there. So he sort of moved away, then he moves towards, and then he moves away and down there. So that is why he has to address the ball so much in the heel. We'll see it from this over the top view. Look how he goes. He goes away, towards the line, and then away again. So it really moves away, and then you'll notice how that club is more in the center of the ball there instead of being addressed off the heel. But that's the primary move of why he addresses it so much in the heel. I just want to get away from all these lines now and then just look a little bit more at the dynamic motion of the downswing from Adam, especially this over the head view here. So let's just look at this start of the transition. Watch what the first move is here. Can you see how his left knee starts to work out and around, and then that'll follow by his left hip? That's first move, is that left knee works out, that hip. You can see how, look at on his left hand pocket here, look how that pocket shifts left and starts to rotate very early. As a net consequence, you'll start to see is, look how that starts to make everything from the torso move. You can see like it's almost as if the torso isn't moving there, it's just reacting to that lower body. And look how much his lower body is opened up here. It's a great view. Look at, really open. His hips are pretty much square now, but look at his shoulders, they're still pretty close to the target. A lot of people can learn a lot from this, especially guys who slice it. So watch again, look how that first move is rotating the hip pocket back. You got a tremendous amount of flexibility. So that hip pocket moves back, opens up everything. You'll see how that right elbow drops below the left here, which helps just shallow that club out and create a lot of speed from Adam. Boom. Just very traditional textbook position, and that unleveling, as I would call it, of the elbows here really help shallow the club head out. It's the opposite of what most amateurs do, whereby the amateurs almost pinch that right arm the other way and pronate instead of supinate that right arm, and that's what gets the club head steep. Whereas if you watch Adam, look how that right elbow sort of drops below the left here, and it really allows that club shaft to shallow nicely. And then let's bring him into this pre-impact position, get rid of all these lines, this pre-impact position here, and you'll see how, look how his shoulders are still closed relative to the target, yet his hips are open to the target. It takes a tremendous amount of flexibility to get into that position. And then let's bring him down further. You'll really start to see from this over the head view, which you don't really see, is watch how that right hip really starts to drive forward now towards the ball. You can really see this. It's an underutilized power production, really, the right hip in the golf swing. You don't see a lot of guys really trying to drive that right hip forward, but you can see how he's really driving that right hip forward. But look how he's still fairly, in colloquial like golf terms, those shoulders are still fairly square to the target line here. His hips are massively open, but his chest is also quite open. It's a little bit unusual from a sort of just looking at it and thinking of it. As you can see, look down the line, his shoulders look visually pretty much parallel with the target. His chest, however, is open to that target, and his hips are massively open to that target So it's a great way for a lot of golfers who especially slice it, because you'll see those shoulders being massively open as an over-the-top move. Adam does this really, really nicely. It's a bit more of an old school move, as most people are trying to really rapidly open up the shoulders. But I love that move for a lot of slicers, of that feeling of the shoulders almost staying square and that right hip really driving through the ball. And then you'll see here, Adam, watch this again, it's such a great view, is watch how he comes through the ball, and watch this right hand, watch how much it really releases through the ball. You can actually see it coming off the club there, and you can really see that, which you wouldn't normally see here. Look how it comes off and then replants. Ernie did a similar thing actually, who Adam said is one of the best swingers of the golf club. You can't really see it here. You can see how much he's really throwing those arms at it and nicely releasing. I love this position of how close those elbows are together, and look at that extension through. That club head is so far away from the chest. It's a great way to develop a lot of speed, because you can't do that unless you put a lot of speed in it. And then you'll see here, as that hand starts to move back onto that club, his arms are still straight. Look, Adam's super flexible. I mean, he's 45 now, which is super impressive. That right hip's moved toward that left foot a little bit more. His eyes have followed the ball out. You can see how much he's rotating that head through. Starts to bend that left arm here, and then you can see how his belt buckle is nicely pointing at the target. If we look from down the line, you can really see how he's using his head to rotate, which helps. Loads and loads of width there. You can see how much that foot is up in the air, because he has driven that right hip forward into this textbook Adam Scott finish, where that club just wraps around him and looks at the target. It's a beautiful, beautiful swing, and I just think we can learn a lot, one from matchups that Adam does here, but also if we just look at that over the top view, you can see things like this left foot, like that addressing in the heel, and like this release here with the right hand of how much it comes off the club, that you'd never get to see if you were just looking at down the line or a face-on view. I love this swing. I could watch it for hours, and I'm sure a lot of you at home are the same way.